All right, folks, we've got Bill. There he is, the man. Everybody say hi, Bill. All right, so now make sure you turn on your audio. Everybody, let's see, Bill talk. Okay, I can't hear you, so that means you need to turn on your audio.
Bam, there it is.
All right, there it is.
Yay.
Hey, everybody's happy to see Bill. Yes.
Wow,
all right, man. So this
deal.
What's that?
Tougher than getting a deal, man.
Yeah, that's it. We got it. Okay, excellent. Perfect. People are we're starting to think that Bill is maybe a ghost. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go back to the Trello board, and we'll start talking about some of these deals here, okay? So let's go to my entire screen. I'm going to share my screen too.
Yeah, I see it.
All right, so let's pull out Partridge. Remember Partridge?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Partridge, guys, was from a direct mail piece. It was from targeting somebody where you could kind of say it was an unexpected ownership or somebody that had recently or had inherited a property along the way. So, Bill, do you remember going out there, and do you remember what her motivation was for selling? And what was it that got us on that one to get in the contract?
Well, really, what had happened is her mother had passed away a couple years, and she was looking to move out of the area. And her elder son, was actually going to finish school in June. I think this was back, what was this, May or something like that?
Yeah, I think May is when we originally had contracted it, yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, sometimes when I go to talk to people, we're always talking about how, fast we can close, but sometimes it's not what they're looking for. They're looking for more or less a date certain versus a quick close. And what I've had to learn how to do over time is, hey, when are you looking to close? It's a simple question, but sometimes they're looking to close like the one on Concord Bridge. She wanted to close like 2 months down the road. Hey, that's fine. We can close in July if you like. If you want to make it 2 months, we can do it. If you want to make it 2 weeks, we can do it. If you want to close next week, we can do it. But Partridge, she was just looking for...
Oh, man. Okay, you're back. Okay, good. Yeah, so when I turn off the screen share, that's what happens. But you're there, right?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay. Yeah, so like you were saying, yeah, about the time frame of the close and everything. So with that one on Partridge, when we went in there, I mean, that wasn't particularly a hard close, was it? Do you remember what the tension was of why she needed, or what the reason why she wanted to close was? Or what was it that got her to close?
I can't remember that. That was a Partridge. Are you talking about the same deal? Which one are you going with?
Yeah, I'm talking about Partridge.
Because Partridge is the one I went and made her offer. She almost fell out of her seat.
That's the type of stuff we want to hear, right? So when you went out there, do you remember what her asking price was?
I can't remember. Honestly, it didn't make a difference. I think she was asking like $60,000 or something like that originally.
Yeah. And
I hit her
when we ended up getting it for how much?
We got it for $36,000, but that's like the short of it. I mean, I hit her at like 25, went up to 35. She literally broke down and started crying. I was just, oh man, I can't believe this. I mean, I kind of felt bad at first, but I mean, this property is kind of rough. It was kind of nasty. Not in the best part of town. We had maybe 3 outs on it on that one where we can either demo the house and do new construction, or we're going to rent it out because it was cheap enough where if we bought something for $35,000, $36,000, we put $15,000 into it, we got a nice rental about $1,200, $1,300 a month.
Right.
So,
and that was a plan too, right? Because she had just redone the kitchen in that house, right? The kitchen was somewhat okay.
Right. Right. The kitchen was in really good shape because she had spent a lot of money on the kitchen. She did some knockdown, but there was a hall bathroom that looks like it hasn't been changed since 1952 or something. It was totally disgusting. Nobody has used it. I mean, it was in pretty bad shape all the way through. But if you remember correctly, that was one of those times where I actually called you up and say, hey, Alex, look, she's saying if I can give her, $36,000, she'll close this right now. Where I was kind of like stuck at 35, and she was begging me for more money. Literally, I mean, it was.
I remember. I mean, you actually put me on the phone with her, and she was crying. Can I please get a little bit more? And I mean, I just wasn't sure on that one what to do, because I mean, we do new construction and everything, but the lot was so skinny that I actually had a model that would fit there, but the lot was so skinny that it just wasn't super desirable, So the thought there, or the out, was, yeah, we could build it if we had to. Yeah, we could rent it if we had to, right? So we were trying to figure out all these different things of ways to go with it, because at $36,000, it was still a cheap deal, right? Still a good deal.
Oh, it's cheap.
Yeah. So, and we had even looked at wholesale, right? We went through the list on that of who we could potentially wholesale it to. We looked into the records to see who was buying out there, what was the potential of maybe another buyer coming along, or another builder coming along and just picking it up from us on a contract assignment or a flip, right? So we looked at those opportunities as well, and it just it was kind of a little bit of a head scratcher, right? So what is it that you tell me, Bill, or what's your assignment or your deal when we're going out and we're looking at a property? We contract it, and then we what?
We basically contract it and then just figure it out. I mean,
that's right.
That's it.
Bill says contract it, figure it out later.
Contract it, take it off the market. I mean, I've seen this before back in like 05, 06. And God, if I knew what I knew now back in the 05, 06, 07 market, I probably wouldn't be working more than 15, 20 hours a week at this point, because I'd be retired. Because back in 04, 05, 06, it was hard to find properties, the same way it is now. In fact, back then, it was kind of like, I don't know if you ever heard of meltdown and like financial stuff where everything just melts down completely. That we had kind of like a melt up back then, where properties were rising so fast that I remember back then when I was flipping houses, I would actually buy a house, think it's worth 150. By the time I was done with it, like 3 or 4 months later, I was selling it for 165. Not because I misjudged the market, but because the market was appreciating so fast. So what I learned is, if we're in a hot market like we are right now, just got to contract it, take it off the market. Don't allow another buyer to come along and offer her $2,000 or $3,000 more. And then you look later on down the road. I don't know if everybody does this. I know I do it. I'll go and see who that person sold the house to, and I'm like, we got beat out like $3,000. Take it off the market.
That's
the
worst.
I'm taking it off the market.
That's one thing we're going to talk about. Point 2, actually, about not making lowball offers over the phone and just really setting yourself up. We'll talk about that. We want to go through a little bit of these case studies here. So in this situation, we had the property under contract, and we even let some buyers take a look at it. One guy that we tracked down, did he walk through that property actually?
Which one?
One of the buyers that we sent over there. Did he walk through it, or was he just walking on the outside? He was like, this isn't for me, or something like that.
Oh, the buyer I had lined up for
that guy.
The first part, the attorney?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He walked through it, but it wasn't – he bought a lot of properties in the area. Because remember, we were looking on the MLS, and we saw he had bought a lot of properties in the area. And I actually wholesaled something about 3 years ago in a similar area, and he actually rented it out. And his game is to kind of rent them out until he can get to them and just build new construction. But he didn't like it. And I thought he would have liked it, but he didn't. And then, we called one of the bigger builders in the area, and he wanted it, but then he never really got back to us on it. And then we just figured, hey, who's our best buyer right now for the cheap properties, especially?
Hey, the buyer, right? He's got 3 initials, right? Anybody know what those initials are? MLS, right? The multiple listing service. So it was a cheap enough deal, right? We say there's money in crap properties, and this definitely qualified as a crap property.
Right. Well, the funny thing is, crap properties, whatever you want to call them, let's say lower price properties, is not really our cup of tea, because what happens is most of the lower price properties, you're going to scrape them and build new construction.
Right. And so we have that capability.
Right. That's why your list is really long in the new construction column, because you have the capability of not wholesaling it to somebody, but you're going to scrape the lot, build new construction, and you're going to make $40,000 to $60,000 on the new construction deal. So, but there's money in these crap properties because they're great cash flowers.
Absolutely.
If you're set up to run them out, keep them rented, and all that stuff that goes along with property management.
Yes, that's right. So the thing there was we maximized. There's a little bit of echo. You do something. There's a little bit of echo. Oh, it's gone now. Okay, good. We maximized the opportunity on that because I actually went ahead. I bought the property with private money. We took it off the market and we just listed it back, right? And we were thinking at $36,000 we could maybe assign it. I mean, what was our builder buyer's number on it? Was it like 40s, low?
Yeah, somewhere in the 40s, 43, 44, 45.
40s, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it was even as high as 45, but we took it off the market, we listed it, and we let the market do the work, and we got how much for it?
$54,000.
$54,000, right? So we bought it for 35 or 36. So we got a little bit of closing costs in there, but we took it off the market, relisted it, and we got $54,000, which is pretty stellar for a deal like that, right? So, after commissions and stuff like that, what would we make on that? Like, because you got 54, and let's see here. Let's do some quick calculations here.
I can't remember.
Let's see. So 54 times 0.94, 50 minus the 30 buying into it at 38. We were left with about $11,000, $12,000, right? So we basically doubled what we could have got if we just went ahead and assigned it over to the other buyer. So that was the Partridge deal. So that one was from a direct mail piece. It was from a record or a lead that most people overlook because it was somewhat of a recent transfer. And what's cool about that is I don't think anybody else was around that deal. Do you?
No, I didn't sense anybody being around. So she wouldn't have, practically, she almost fell on the floor literally. So it was probably the first lowball offer. I can kind of tell.
And that's usually a bad thing.
In there, but yeah, well, it was pretty weird. It got weird when she started breaking down and crying. I was like, man, this is bad. This is bad. Yeah. But that's why I can tell nobody else has been out there, because generally when I make an offer to somebody, or if I'm walking through the house, or if they stand at the door and just let me in, or if you see carpet in the corner pulled because they want to look at the hardwood floors, you already know they've paraded people through there.
That's a good tip right there. Look for
cold. A lot of times I just flat out ask them, hey, who's got the highest offer? And they'll, instead of telling the highest offer, he says, well, I'm not going to tell you that. Well, that just told me at least there's other offers. So,
right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. There wasn't any competition on that one. So really I just had to close it down.
All right. So I showed you guys my board. We're gonna move to the next one. I'm not gonna switch the screen over because it's just kind of iffy on this webinar software. So the next one is Afton Parkway. Okay. So this one actually came in as an online lead, and something that the rule of thumb with this one, right, is to follow up, because this one came in back in I remember it was on April 1st, actually. April 1st it came in, and she had tried to go a couple different routes with a couple different other wholesalers, I guess, or other investors, and it just didn't work out, right? So one day I think I just might have just followed up with a text through Podio, and I'd say, hey, are you still looking to sell your property? And she said, actually, I am. The contract that I had on this is falling apart, and we really want to get rid of it. So I'm trying to remember. I think I actually went out there myself because I was in the vicinity the first time, and I went out there and I said, oh my, this thing is burnt to a crisp. It's a mess. I don't know if I want to build this thing or not. And I think their original number was $35,000 was what they were trying to get. And then I went out there and said, would you take 25? And I did that before I got there. And they said, well, we need 28. So I went out there, and at 28, I couldn't pull the trigger. I think they called us back after that, and and then Bill, you ran out there real quick, right? Do you remember that? What happened with that scenario?
Well, it was actually Sunday, and me and my
Yeah,
wife
it was Sunday. That's right.
Yeah, Sunday, and me and my wife were over at the Greek Festival in Norfolk, and just when she thought we were going to go home, I said, hey, by the way, I'm going to go and talk to a couple of sellers real quick. And I had another wholesaler call me up, and he had a property he wanted me to go by and look at. And I always entertain whatever another wholesaler throws at me, just because if you don't, then they might not call you, or they don't think you're serious. So on the way out, I mapped my route out. 15 minutes, I stopped, looked at the house. It was a no-go. It was a tear down. I said, if you can get it first for this amount, we'll buy it. And then I went through the tunnel, went to Portsmouth, and finally met this lady who you already been and talked to. I think you talked to her earlier, like the week or the week before or something.
I can't remember how early it was.
Yeah, it was something like during that week you had already talked to her. And funny thing is, I remember talking to her about a month and a half before that, and she was like pie in the sky. Like, she was asking for a lot of money. Then she contracted with another wholesaler at 35. Come to find out, when I got there, it was exactly like you described, because you already had met her, so you already did some recon work for me. So it's like I already kind of like categorized them. I already knew what I was going to say and do if I was presented with a circumstance like you were with the husband, because the husband had paid for this house. I think he paid $45,000, $46,000, or $47,000 like a couple years ago.
That's right.
He bought the house for his stepdaughter, her daughter, and she had lived there, and somehow she caught it on fire, whatever the hell happened, and she moved out, obviously. And I remember you telling me that she was ready to go. And I talked to her on the phone. She sounded so easygoing. I'm like, how the hell did you not walk away with the contract? But you know what it was? It was that guy.
That's right.
The guy did not want to sell it, even though it was in her name, but he paid for it, and he wasn't going to, quote unquote, give it away. I mean, everybody's heard that before. I'm not going to give it away. So go out there, and you were right. He was an obstacle.
Let me stop you real quick on it. As far as when somebody says to you, I'm not going to give it away. I need to sell it, but I'm not going to give it away. What's the immediate question you should ask right after they say, I'm not going to give it away? Are you ready? What price would you consider giving it away?
Yeah, that's it. What do you consider giving it away? That's it.
Get that price.
Come up with a number, and that's their giveaway price. And sometimes their giveaway price is not so bad.
Right. That's right. We got to get them to say what that number is first, right?
But lo and behold, you were right. This guy was an obstacle. He was the reason she wasn't selling it, because I was, talking to her on the phone, and she was ready to sell it. I mean, she was gonna give it away. She didn't care. She wanted out of it. And I come to find out, I walked through the house. It was burnt to a crisp. I mean, the inside of the kitchen area, where the fire started in the kitchen, it was completely smoked, black, charred. And in fact, I walked in the house, and it had wavy floors. It was already an older house, built in, like, I think 1918 or whatever the hell it was. And it had wavy floors. And I walked through the kitchen. It was burnt. 20 seconds later, I walked back towards the front. And I says, look, I'm not going to walk upstairs. And he was kind of shocked. Apparently, most people will just walk upstairs, take a tour. I stopped right at the bottom of the stairs. I'm not walking any further. I said, this is a teardown. I says, I'm not fixing this. And she goes, well, what do you mean? Oh, my daughter just lived here like a couple of years ago or whatever. I was like, well, it's not habitable now. And I said, I'm not going to sit there and spend $60,000, $70,000 fixing this up when I can tear it down, build a brand new house. He goes, well, there's nothing wrong with it. He tried to convince me literally there was nothing wrong with this house.
This is a great house.
No, this is what he was saying. So I'm standing. I purposely walked towards the front of the house and stood on the part that sloped. It was literally like 8 to 12-inch slope almost. It was like walking through a funhouse mirror. You're walking around in one of those houses, and it's literally just wavy in there. So I stood on the part that had the biggest or decline or incline, however you want to call it. I stood there. And he sat there and told me there was nothing wrong with this structurally. I said, are you kidding me? In fact, I'm not going to say what I said. Because I don't know how people are
You
about
can
cursing.
abbreviate what you said.
I said, "Are you effing kidding me?"
Oh wow.
I said it
Okay.
right to his face, but you know what I saw? When I read his face, he didn't say anything. And I looked at her face, and she was almost ready to applaud me. She was ready to applaud. I mean, literally, she was
Stand
almost,
up to my husband.
I could see it in her face that this is what this guy needed. Remember, I told you, I think this guy needs to be yelled at a little bit. So I said, "Are you effing kidding me?" And he goes, "No, I had a JES, which is a very reputable company around here, does high-end, like, structural work." He says, "Oh, they did an inspection. They thought it was all fine." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Are you really effing kidding me here?" I said, "Look at this." And I started walking around the floor and showing him how bad of a decline. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible, right? But you know what? He didn't. He kind of curved out on me a little bit. He kind of didn't. He wasn't very combative with me. So after that, I took him outside, and he says, "So what are you saying?" I says, "Look, I tell you what, I don't know what are you looking to get out of this." Then they went into the story, have a wholesaler. I had to listen to their story about the wholesaler contracted and even closed it. And they kind of confused you with another buyer. And it was like, well, there's another guy came out here and he was trying to get us to give it away to him. And he didn't, we weren't selling it. And we told him we'd take 30 for it. So they hit me at $30,000.
That's awesome. They went up by 2.
Yeah, they hit me for 30. I says, well, that's not going to happen. I says, let me tell you what I will do though. I said, I'm very straightforward. I'm going to be right to the point with you, and I'm going to close on it. But I'm going to give you $20,000 for this. He sat there. He looked at me. It's like he looked at me right in my eyes. I mean, he was like looking into my soul, kind of like, I said, that's all I can do. But I promise I'll close on it. I won't string you along, and we're just going to close. So guess what? 10 minutes later, after I listened a little bit more about what he did for a living and all this other stuff, and, we kind of got off of it. You got to have to deflate it a little bit. It's like there's a lot of pressure. So we kind of talked about other stuff for a second. Then I came back to it. I said, what do you think? And he goes, okay, I'll do it. So that's it. It went down.
Right.
But that's like the short of it. I had to yell at him a little bit, but I knew I was on the right track when I seen the glee in her eyes.
Well, you know what? And what's really cool here and really important is being able to tell who you're dealing with, right? So you are not going to raise your voice at a nice little old lady, right? You were dealing with somebody that was a driver, right? Somebody that needed to feel that friction. And that's a word that you use a lot, right? We got to have friction in order to make this happen.
A little bit of friction is good. Because with a little bit of friction,
explain that a little bit about friction so people understand that when dealing with negotiating with sellers. Because is it always a good thing if the seller is hearing everything you're saying and smiling at you and shaking their head and saying, "Oh yeah, great, yeah."
Whatever you say, just so you can go ahead and leave and go on out the door.
That's right.
They're not asking, let's say in this situation, it's not really buying questions, but more or less selling questions. They're not asking any questions. You're not getting anywhere. They're just being compliant until you leave. You know what I mean?
Right.
But a typical friction scenario would be a lot of times when you're negotiating price. Let's say your strike price is $80,000, and you hit them at $70,000, and of course most people expect to negotiate, so they come back at they want 90, or let's say they do come back at 82. Now you want to tighten it up. Because you can't let them know, because really at 82 and our strike price is 80, we might just do it and get them to sign up. But if we instantly say, okay, we'll take it at 82, guess what? They're thinking, oh my God, I left a lot of money on the table. He probably went for more.
That's right. Right. Those
So,
steps. You have to go through the steps, even if you think it's a lay down, right?
Right. Even if it's a lay down. Even if they take your initial, let's say you offer them, just like you said, let's say we wanted to be at 80, but they came back at 82. I'm going to make them battle me over the next couple $1,000 just so they understand that's all I can pay. Look, this is all I can do. I can do $78,000. I can't do any more. And they might say, look, I'll take 80 right now. And they think they got me. They'll sit back and look, all I'll take is 80 for it. And if you don't like it, you can leave kind of deal. I'll be like, look, I don't know. I can't quite do 80,000. I'll tell you what. That's when I call you sometimes. You see me do it numerous times.
Yes.
I use the prompt. It's kind of like I'll
call
you up.
I look forward to those calls. I'm like, yeah, we got another one.
Yeah. Yep. And then I'll call you up and I'll go through the thing with you and say, hey, what do you think about $80,000? I peg it at like 70. I can't do any more than like maybe 78. And they want 80, but they'll close right now. And that's your signal and say, hey, let's go ahead and do it. Guess what? We're signing them up right there at 80,000.
That's it.
That's a typical friction scenario.
Yeah, you just want to have a little bit of friction, because if it's too easy, they're going to think they could have got more. You'll think you could have got less, and it just doesn't set up the right kind of feelings. Plus, if there's no objection, then they are just telling you what you want to hear just to get rid of you. You know, here's a tip how to get rid of a salesperson. Tell them exactly what you want to hear, and tell them that you're really close to making the decision, and you're going to call them back very soon.
That's it.
I bet you they'll leave you alone. Okay?
That's it. Thank you for the information. It's been nice meeting you. We're glad you came out. That's like the worst thing in the world. It's like I just wasted my time for like 45 minutes to an hour.
Absolutely. So
information, my God.
Friction is good. Friction allows you to know that you are hitting some critical points in their life, right?
Right.
So, all right. So we got the contract on that one. And in a very typical situation on that one too, right? It was a potential teardown, a potential new build, right? But I went down to the city. I dealt with them. I was like, I don't want to go through the historical process. I even looked at a rental potential of fixing the property up and then renting it out. And then the work on that was just too crazy. And so we turned again to our favorite buyer. It was a cheap crap property. I bought it, closed on it, right? And turns out that we bought it for 20, right? So we were in it for 20, and we turned around and we listed it. And what did we end up getting for it?
We ended up getting $35,000.
$35,000, right? So the build out situation on that, if we would have built it out, we would have maybe made 35 to 37,000 before the cost of money. And without confusing anybody, what I mean by that is the cost of money, the cost of the interest on when you borrow the money, right? So it would have ended up maybe in the high 20s on that or something, and that was just not the neighborhood for it, right?
Right. It wasn't what I consider great inventory. So those are better just to wholesale, make some money and reload some marketing. That's it.
Yeah. And what Bill just said there is very important, right? He said it wasn't what I would consider A+ inventory. So when you're doing deals and you're marketing and you're getting things under contract, you have to realize what kind of inventory you're dealing with, right? Do you have A+ inventory, really nice neighborhoods, bread and butter? Do you have a B property, which would be more of a rental neighborhood kind of thing? And then there's C, which is absolute crap, right? And those two deals were absolute crap, right? And we made, after commissions, I think we made another like 10,000 on that one. So between those two deals, we made about $22,000, and that's just those two deals there. So that was, I'm looking at our time here, what we've got going on. That was two deals there. You guys, I just want to make sure you guys are awake here. I'm going to unmute the chat. Let me know if you guys like what you're hearing here. Is this something that's helpful to you? Hearing about some stories in the trenches and things like that. I'm going to leave the chat open and let you guys let me know. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, this will be a fun one. This is a good one, right? So the last one that we just did, okay, we got some wide awake people. Awesome. Loving it. Definitely helpful. Thank you. Good, guys. I appreciate it. Awesome. Thanks, Justin, Cody, John, Corey, Max, Malik. Awesome. Jeff, thanks. The next deal we did was Bill, come work for me, Justin says. I don't know if Justin's local. Let's see. Who is Justin? Justin. Oh, that's Justin Link, I think. Yeah, I seen you in my group, man. Yeah, yeah. So the next deal we'll talk about will be Baker Road. Remember Baker Road, Bill?
John I don't want to say his name. Yeah, JP.
JP.
That's a funny guy.
Right? All right, I'm going to mute the chat again because I'm getting distracted here. Okay, so JP, right? So this was a property, again, all about the follow-up. It was a deal that this man inherited, so it was a recent transfer within the last 7 years or so, and he had gotten tons of postcards, right? So I had contacted this guy way back when, maybe even a couple of years ago, and been following up and following up and following up and following up. And sure enough, he came back to Virginia after he built his big old house to store his buses in and everything, right? And called us up and said, hey, come on out.
Hey, but honestly, slow down real quick because you went past the whole main part of that.
Yes. Go ahead. Reinforce it.
How long did you say you followed up with this guy?
Years.
Dude, that's unreal follow-up. That's what it's about. But let's fast forward this real quick. After 2 years of follow-up, would you do it again?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
How much did we make on that?
Well, we won't tell them what we made yet. We got to go through the process here, right? So we went through the marketing process of how we found him. It was a postcard. Right. And all along the path, once I got him on the in a text conversation, right? He's on the phone. So every now and then I would just text him and say, hey, John, were you coming down to Virginia? Hey, John, anything I can help you with? Hey, John, what's up? Right? So a key when you're following up is to not harass people, right? So not, hey, you're going to sell that house? You're going to sell that house? You're going to sell that house, right? You want to keep the loop open, and you want to keep the loop open by saying things like, anything I can help you with? Are you going to, any questions you might have? And just keep it open and keep it going, right? Because if you keep it to just strictly, are you going to sell me the house? You are inviting yourself an answer that will close that loop down, right? It's going to close the loop down. No, I'm not ready. What are you going to say to that, right? But if you just say, hey, anything I can help you with, or what's going on, or how you doing, right? Those are things like keep the loop open and keep the system going, right? So we went out there, we talked to John, and he was under the impression that I believe the number was like 160, wasn't it? Like he was thinking, man, I think I could get 160 for this house. And he was all about the tax assessment. This guy had all the indications of a seller that wanted way too much for their house and was emotionally attached to it, right? He didn't seem like he was going to be a deal that we were going to make this happen.
Well, it was his dad's house. His dad passed away. His brother was living in there. So there was a little bit of emotional attachment. Anytime I find that sellers or properties involving heirs, they either sell them within 2 months of the person's body's not even cold and they're selling the house, or they go the other way with it and they shrine it out. They keep it the same. They don't touch anything. They don't put stuff up, and it just sits there for 2 years. And it's that vacant house we all drive by and we're like, what the hell happened here? Where are they at? And we do some title work and we find out that somebody had passed away or whatever. That was that house, with the exception his brother didn't really have a place to live, so he lived there. And it was kind of weird because I've never seen his brother. We never could go in that back bedroom. It was that weird house that you don't go in the back bedroom. I'm like, what's in the back bedroom? His brother was there.
Is there a monster?
Yeah, I'm expecting to see like some kind of dead body in the back bedroom or something because we can never go back there. It's like, well, he's asleep. I'm like, dude, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Who the hell is sleeping at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Like twice. I mean, what does this guy do? I mean, he doesn't work.
I know.
Anyway, it was a nice break.
Brother back there, by the way, who is a drunk.
A little bit of a drunk.
Just a little bit. So we went out there, and he was walking us through the house and selling us on every feature, down to even the small kitchen layout and all these things that. I mean, it was just like, wow, this guy's not going to let this house go.
He was actually a really good, pitchman. Like, he had the right voice for it. I mean, like, he missed his calling because
the
funny thing is he had his camper. You forgot that part. He had his camper parked in front of the house.
That's
and he
where we met him.
Into an outdoor outlet, and we actually closed this deal inside his camper.
That's it. Remember that? He said, come into my office, right?
Yeah. I was like, all right, let's step in your office, buddy.
So how did we walk him down from him thinking he could get 160, 170,000 for the house. Do you remember how he did that?
I can't remember the specifics of it. It felt like it happened so fast a little bit because I think we went. There was a lot of friction on that.
We talked about you because Bill is a contractor, so he has a contracting license, which helps. We talked about what it would cost to fix up and what you can get, what you could sell. And Bill is also a realtor, by the way. So Bill talked about, in a very honest fashion, what would happen if you listed this house for X and what would happen if you fixed it up and then listed it for X, right?
Right.
And he didn't want to go through the process.
He didn't want to go through the process. And that's what we have to find out sometimes is I find it quite effective to kind of, we don't want to we never walk through. That's like our general practice. As long as we've been working together, we never walk through the house and beat people up on stuff. You see me do it a million times where I walk through the house with my flashlight and I'll just use my flashlight and point over something in the ceiling that needs repair without saying anything. And I just hold the flashlight there for a second. Usually they'll chime in and they'll speak and they'll tell me what happened. Or there's like, let's say a stress crack or a foundation crack or something. And we just highlight it with the flashlight and they'll speak up on it. We let them do our work for us. There's too many people, I think, in this business want to walk people through the house and overestimate, numbers like $15,000 for a kitchen. Most people are not going to even fathom $15,000 in a kitchen. Just ask them, what do you think you would spend on a kitchen like this? If they tell you $2,000, then we educate them. We'll tell them, hey, it costs a little bit more than $2,000. And I'll even pull out my phone and say, hey, look, let me show you a house I just renovated. You see your house? I'll hold my phone up just like this. I'll put it on something in Zillow that I had on the market or I've sold or whatever the case is. And I'll flip through my phone and show them a picture of a renovated kitchen and say, hey, look, what we have to do with this house. I said, look, this house is fine. Don't get me wrong. It's functional. It's been a nice house for your parents for years or whatever the case is. It's been a nice house for you. But we have to get it looking like this kitchen here. And do you know how much it's cost to get it to look like this kitchen here? And they'll be like, well, I don't know, $8,000? Like just about right about $8,000. I'm not going to argue with them. 8,000 is a good number. It's a good retail price. So I'll walk them around the house, and they get the general idea. We don't want to overemphasize that too much.
Yeah, but by doing that, right, we're also getting a sense of how they value money, right?
Correct. That's very important. Right. How they value money, exactly. And what the capacity is to actually do something like this. I'm like, are you in a position where you can look, I'll tell them flat out, you can sell this house for this much money. And I'll tell them the full ARV of the house, but you're going to have to make it look like this. Is this something you can do? And they're like, oh no, I don't want to do it. I don't have the money for it. They'll tell you whatever it is. And if you can get them to say it, it's far more effective than you telling them that they can't afford to fix it. Because how do you know they can't afford to fix it? Let them tell you.
Right.
They might be able to afford to spend the money. They just might not want to go through the headaches.
That's right.
Some people have the money.
When dealing with sellers like this is, hey, this is a great house. Why don't you list it?
That's it.
Hey, this is awesome. Why don't you fix it?
Right. Well, the why don't you list it thing is somewhat effective too, because some of these people have us come out there. Everybody that's done any type of marketing and has been on a appointment knows that when you go out there, if the house is worth $200,000, what do they want for it? 180. They want full market value minus 10% in commissions and real estate costs.
Great deal.
No matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what condition the house is in, they want whatever Zillow told them it is minus the commissions. So a lot of times I say, hey, look, it sounds like you want a lot of money for it. Why don't you list it? Have you thought about listing it? And they'll tell me, well, I thought about that. I have my aunt. She's an agent. And that tells me she has an aunt that's an agent. She's thought about listing it. Or sometimes they say, well, I hate agents. I won't list it. There's no way I'm listing. That's great. Because I know then the only other way they're going to sell it is to somebody on the open market or somebody to us, like somebody like us.
Right, right, absolutely.
That, right, and that eliminates the possibility of them listing it and selling it by them telling you you're not going to go that route. The other day I went on an appointment, an hour later, guess what? That guy tricked our guy that answers the phones into getting an appointment a little bit because our guy thought he was super motivated. He wasn't motivated. He was motivated at selling it at a high price, but who isn't? So I went out there an hour later. This guy's backup plan, worst case scenario. I said, let me ask you this. If we went through an hour of talking back and forth, the guy knew his numbers. He said, what are you going to do with it if you can't sell it? He had a great answer. You know what he said? I'm going to rent it out. My mortgage payment's only $550 a month. I'm going to rent it out for $1,100. I should have never.
You're the greater fool, right?
I should have never been on the appointment. I could have weeded him out on the phone in 10 minutes.
Right.
That guy actually talked us into coming out there.
Right. So on this deal on Baker, then, so we walked him down. We got him to the point. We got, we hit him at a price where we knew we can make money. Because honestly, we weren't sure because it was a roadside property, right? In a great in a great neighborhood or a great city, if you will.
Still roadside, right?
But it was still roadside. So we had a question on it. We weren't sure what was going to happen. So I think our initial number was like 90, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I started out a little lower than our strike price because in my opinion, I didn't feel like the lowball, you didn't want to lowball this guy.
No.
It had to be justifiable with what we were talking about with the construction numbers. Remember, we were looking at Zillow with the houses that sold next door and in the neighborhood. Then we kind of had that little argument with each other. And people are like balloons. You blow them up a little bit, and then you have to deflate it with some other type of talk. You got to get off of it. And we went back and forth. And what did we settle at 98, I think?
No, 97.5, I think.
That's what it was. I think we hit him at 96. Ended up going back to 96. And then he hit us with our own little friction thing. How about 97.5? And then we ended up saying, well, okay, we'll do it, kind of. That's the short version of it.
Right. And we whipped out the contract right there, and we're like, let's make this happen, right? And he was so surprised that it was like he couldn't believe he was going to do that deal today. Because the funny thing is, right, he had a house in Ohio that it took years to sell and get through the process. So he couldn't believe that we were going to do it like that day. So his expectations were a little bit funny there.
Right now? We're going to do it right now. I said, well, I'm going to at least go grab the agreement from my car, and I'll be right back. I said, I went out with a little camper, which is kind of weird. Went to my car, came back into the camper, and had him signed up.
Right. Absolutely.
Funny guy.
So how did we cash out that deal, right? So we thought, again, that was one that we could potentially buy and resell, but we had our reservations. We weren't sure what we were going to do. But the key was we had the contract, right? We also had the opportunity where we could have just wholesaled it, or we could have bought it and listed it. But we have one of our A-plus buyers in that area that we know pays the most, and we were able to get him run through there, right? And we bought it for $97.5, and we sold it for $132? I think
it was 129.
Yeah, I think it was like 130. So we ended up making like 32,000 on it. So it was a great deal. Now, people would say, "Oh, you made $32,000 on this guy. You stole the property, right?" Well, we had no idea what our buyer what a potential buyer would pay beforehand. We had no idea if we were gonna buy it. We had no idea if this guy was even interested, right? So we just made our best offer, negotiated, got the deal, and made it happen. And that's what it's all about. So, let's see here. We are almost an hour into this here. Let's see.
Do you want to ask questions?
No. Not yet. No questions yet. We got Partridge, Afton. Oh, you know what? As far as closing, let's talk about Lakon. Now, Lakon wasn't a super deal per se, right?
It's a tough close, man.
The close was awesome on it, right? So let's talk about that one. So this lady came in from a direct mail piece as well. And she called us up, left a message with the answering service. And you were, I think it was later on in the day, right? And you went ahead and you rushed out there, right?
Well, I was actually at another appointment, the one on Barco.
Ah, that's right.
I forgot my clipboard out there, so I had to go back to the house. that went on an appointment earlier because I either forget my flashlight or clipboard almost all the time, it feels like. But anyways, I went out of the house, ended up getting a chance. I almost talked her brother into a listing or whatever, and I spent some time there, and we got that lead from Newport News, and I said, hey, I called her up, I talked to her, and I felt that it was urgent enough to go out there right on the spot. So I drove up with 45 minutes. I wonder if my wife's awake because I had to trick her into going to dinner with me that night. Say, hey, go for a ride. We're going up to Newport News, but I'll buy you some dinner.
Right.
And ended up bringing my wife. She sat in the car during this deal. And the funny thing is, this Korean lady, I mean, it's typical Korean household. You walk in the front door, you got to take off your shoes. Okay, take off your shoes, which is good because the house is in pretty good shape.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, after I walked around the house is extremely outdated, right? Original stuff from the 60s, but in very good shape.
Right.
Excellent.
Right.
Like she kept it clean, shoes off the door kind of deal. But this Korean lady was a tough cookie. Let me tell you why. Number one, she wanted $140,000 for the house. And this is kind of like related back to friction a little bit too, because if you don't have friction with this lady, this is the type of deal where I could have probably gave her $140,000 as soon as I walked in, but I bet you she wouldn't have signed. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the deals that are like, they give you a number, but sometimes they won't take it when you come out there. It's kind of weird.
Especially if you do that over the phone, right?
Right. Then all of a sudden they feel like, well, he said it's so easy. Well, let me talk to some more people since he was so easy, right?
Right.
So I tell you what, after walking around with her and my initial offer to her after I sat down, and one of the key things that I make it a point to do nowadays is I don't stand up and really negotiate if I can sit down. Given an opportunity to negotiate, always sit down. So I got to seat at her table, and on the table was about 5 other postcards, 2 business cards, real estate agents. I was like, holy crap. I mean, it's Saturday, and you know what's kind of weird? I kind of felt like I was either the second or third person out there as a whole. Maybe not the first, but it wasn't like, 5 or 6 deep like her table had all those cards on there. So I hit her at $125,000. She didn't like it. She, no, not 125. He goes, I want the 140. I said, all right, look, it's outdated. You see this crack over here? This means you might have some structural stuff. And then I kind of go back into some other stuff. Look, I don't even know what the crawl space looks like. I haven't been underneath there. I'm not going on there tonight. No, I got to have 140. I said, all right, I'll give you 130. And she goes, no, I can't do it. So finally, she wants to settle at 140. I said, I'll do 140. She didn't want to sign it. I said, I'll tell you what. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit here and offer you what you wanted, and you're not going to take it. So guess what? I'm going to go to dinner. My wife's in the car.
The dinner close.
Hey, I'm going to go to Town Center, which is like maybe 15, 16, 17 minutes away from her house. I said, I'm going to give you a call in about an hour and a half and ask you if you'd like me to come back. And if you have any questions about the agreement, I'll go over them. But if I leave, I'm not giving you $140,000. I said, you can go talk to every single buddy else on these postcards on your table, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I said, I'm out of here. I had to take a really firm tone with this lady. I'm not going to get very, she's the type of person that you have to be really firm with her, very direct, and she has to have friction. She has to have that back and forth. It's almost cultural. She has to barter with you.
Right.
I gave her that. I gave her like a level 9, like going back and forth with her. And I gave her a time limit. That's it. Pressure's on her now. That's the thing about negotiating. It's always about when somebody says something to you, you fling it right back to them and put the decision making back on them. So I left her with a decision to make. Lo and behold, an hour and a half later after dinner, I called her up and I asked, and she put her daughter on the phone. Her daughter spoke better English. And she goes, yeah, Bill, we're okay with the agreement, but we have a few questions. I said, I'd be happy to help you out. I'll be there in 20 minutes. So I went out there, went over a couple things in the agreement, and she just wanted clarification, kind of to eyeball you, like eyeball to eyeball, just look at you in the face. And we had them sign up. And she pestered us for the next 3 weeks, I felt like. Every single, are you going to really close? Are you going to really close? I'm like, yeah, we're going to close.
And we did, didn't we?
we got a survey. We spent $200 something on that. We spent time. I said, look, we're gonna close. Look, call my attorney's office. Seriously, we are gonna close. My God.
Yeah.
That lady's killing me.
Yeah, but you know what? If you wouldn't have gotten that deal that night with your dinner closed, listen, I'm going to go out to dinner. I'll be back. And when we come back, we're doing this deal, right? She wouldn't have signed.
Right. And the key to that is not so much dinner, obviously, but you got to put a time. You got to put a time on there, amount of time that expires.
Right.
They think that, hey, they're going to baseline you. They're going to be like, hey, I can't do no worse than 140. Worst case scenario, I'll talk to every single person on this table, and she would have done it for $500. If she could get another $500 for 100 American dollars, she would have sold that house to another person. Trust me when I tell you.
That's it. She definitely would have done that.
So if you think you're being nice by giving them time to sit there and think about it, no. You know what they're going to do? They're going to shop you. And just what? We should have a stamp. I just got baselined.
That's right.
I love coming behind other wholesalers that go out there and can't close a deal, because if they got baseline, I'll figure out what the offer is. I'll elicit it from them. I'll figure out what the offer is, and if somebody came at 140, guess what? I'm leaving at 142 with a contract. I'm taking it to market. I'm leaving the contract. I'm not wasting my time.
Important. Right? So we talked about, remember, the whole premise of the webinar is these three things. I'm giving you these case studies so you can see how real deals work, how real life is, how it's not, some kind of esoteric thing that you can't wrap your hands around. But these are real deals, real stories from the trenches, real things that are going on. And what I talked about, the things that really have been the key to success through this, number one has been marketing, right? So marketing, and we're not marketing with the idea of properties, right? So we're not looking at absentee properties. We're not looking at free and clear properties. We're not looking at even tax delinquent properties, right? So we're looking for a certain kind of seller situation. And when I talk about that, I'll tell you what I mean are recent transfers, okay? So there's a way to go in and get these recent transfers without having to spend a whole ton of money. And when you're able to also go in and find the perfect property avatar, what I call properties that are selling, that are the hot properties, because there's a common theme running through your market, which shows maybe there's a certain year built that's selling, there's a certain square footage that's selling, there's a certain value that's selling. When you can hone in on that and eliminate all the rest of it, you'll be marketing to people that are the most likely to sell. And in this business, right now, there are people in your market that are ramping up their marketing budgets to really high amounts, and they're cranking the marketing and they're sending it out there every month consistently. How can the little guy, or the guy that's just trying to get into this, compete with that? Well, exactly just what I told you. By learning how to hone in on your market with that perfect property avatar, and then targeting those recent transfers, which again, I can show you exactly how to do that. And I'm going to give you an opportunity where I can actually do that for you in your market. That's what's going to differentiate you from just targeting everybody else out there and wasting marketing money, because it's very important that you get a hold of a number, and that is your cost per deal, right? You want to bring that cost per deal number way, way, way down. And that ties into actually the next thing that we're talking about, that second thing, not making lowball offers over the phone, right? Because what that does, and we're going to talk about this, Bill just mentioned it, was setting the baseline, right? When you set the baseline, you are setting a death sentence for yourself, right? When you go out there and, even before you go out there, it can happen even when you go out to the property, you can set the baseline. You got to be very, very careful. So over the phone, it used to be years ago where I would have a virtual assistant go in and just make offers over the phone. Boom, 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 just making offers. Boom, boom, boom. But as times have changed and other wholesalers have come into the game and other investors, they're getting more sophisticated with their systems. So by you putting a low number out there, you are making it so much easier for your competition to beat you. And you know when this happens? is when you think you're working a deal, you've set the baseline by giving that offer to the seller over the phone, and then you wonder, why can't I get a hold of the seller? Why won't they call me back? They've gone completely dark on me. And then guess what? You check your email, and what do you see, Bill?
What are you talking about? What do I see with what?
What happens when you see that email come through after you're wondering what happened to that seller? What do you see on that email coming through?
What are you talking when somebody beats you out on a deal?
You see a listing from another wholesale.
Oh, that's the worst. When you see somebody else's, when you see your property on somebody else's list, that's horrible. Oh
because you set the baseline and you made their job really easy. So it's important too, as well, not to go out and make a lowball offer with no plan of closing it, right? You can't just go out and make a lowball offer and you're doing the same thing. So you have to be careful with that.
There's nothing wrong with hitting somebody with a low offer, because you can't really get a great deal without making that low offer. However, you have to pick and choose the right situation for that. If it's the wrong
process, and there's a way of meeting with sellers, right? There's a specific way of meeting with sellers and framing everything correctly down to what your offer is, and being able to understand who you're dealing with as a seller, right? I call it a seller sequence. You work the seller sequence from the beginning to the end, from the point of rapport to the point of that handshake, even when you can tell who you're dealing with, what kind of person you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
To the point of moving into presenting figuring out what the real problem is, and even to the point of the walkthrough when you're walking through the property, and then you're getting an idea of, when we're walking through a property, we're not doing it necessarily to figure out what's wrong with the property, but we're trying to see how this person communicates, how they bounce off us when we realize that, oh, Bill shines his flashlight up on that crack on the ceiling. How are they going to respond to that? Do they think it takes a lot of money to fix that? Is it a little money to fix it? We can really get an idea of their perception of value. Very important, right?
Right. I mean, I could walk a property in 5 minutes or less. But I usually take 20, 25, 30 minutes walking it with the people in an effort to conversate with them.
Right.
And to figure out all the stuff you're talking about. You feel out how they look at money, what are their auditory, visual, or kinesthetic, and their speech patterns. I mean, you get to learn a lot by conversating with people, and they don't really see it coming. They think they're talking about stuff like in the house, where you're figuring out what type of person you're dealing with.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. In fact, here's a tip for you. When you're walking through a house, you are reading the seller more than you're reading the house. Our idea is not to go into the house and try to pick it apart. Our idea is to deal with the seller and figure out what makes them tick. That's what's the most important.
That's the key. You should be able to assess a house in 10 minutes or less for the most part. And the other 20 to 30 minutes while you're walking around the house, through the house, is casual conversation, sometimes about the house, but then you jump off the house and talk about other stuff and stop in a certain room or whatever. Right. And that's, you're gathering information in an effort to be able to know how to hit them at the back end, how to be able to sell them or buy from them in a way.
Right. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is being able to maximize the cash that you pull out of each and every deal. And that's done through some specific funding strategies, right? So one of those funding strategies, and we don't have a lot of time to get into this because we're running a little bit late, but the funding strategies of, number one, we can flip the contract, right? And we can sell on a contract assignment, or we can close on the property and we can resell it using the MLS, right? So what stops people from doing the second is usually they don't have the money for that, or they don't, you can do it even with a transactional close, right? Transactional funding. You can buy the deal and have your buyer ready to go on the other side and close that way. That's something that you can do as well. But some people figure, well, I don't have the money, to do that, or the capabilities or the connections. Well, what I'm going to tell you here pretty shortly as well is I've got a pretty cool surprise regarding that, depending on what you guys want to do regarding this program I'm about to tell you about. Okay, so number one, understanding the marketing is not about properties, it's about sellers. Number two is being able to work with sellers and not just dropping lowball offers out there and running and not being able to close. So learning to close is very, very important. And number three is maximizing the amount of cash that you get out of the deals. Now, one helpful tip I can give you about that point three is you want to find the whales in your market, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your public records, or you could go to ListSource, and you're going to look for the recent cash transactions in the area, meaning you're going to look for the recent absentee sales. And then when you do that, you're not going to sort out the duplicates. You're going to keep the duplicates in there, and then you simply look for that repeat buyer that's buying over and over and over again. And you can see the number that they're buying it at, and you can see, ooh, that looks like a whale in my area. And if they're a whale and a real person, a real buyer, they're going to have an address and maybe even an office. And you can simply just reverse search that office, call them up and say, hey, I see that you like properties in this area. If I may have one in that area from time to time, would you be interested in buying, right? So, and you can find seller or your buyers just like that. Worst thing you can do is just blast out your property on Craigslist in hopes of finding a buyer, right? Because you're going to end up with some weird
waste of time
of somebody trying to play games with you or something along those lines. So, all right. So before we move to this next thing here, I'm going to unmute the chat and see if you guys are loving this content. It's been super helpful to you. Let me know if you think Bill is the man, and you can learn a lot from Bill when it comes to negotiation and all those kind of things. Some of you guys are like, Bill, can you come work for me, Bill? They're trying to hire you, Bill.
call me.
Yeah, he's saying call me, right? So actually, I'm going to show you here how you may be able to work with Bill in your business when it comes to sellers and all that kind of good stuff, right? So let's move on here till this next thing here. And one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is this proprietary way I have of pulling the list with the recent transfers and things like that that most people are overlooking. And I'll tell you why people are overlooking it, right? They're overlooking it because anytime you deal with a list provider, and every time you put a date in here, okay, anytime you put a date, like I want properties that sold from 10 years or older, anytime you do that, you're automatically excluding this kind of seller. So right out the gate, you're getting rid of them. So I have a way of going in and working with the data, manipulating the data, and finding those high potential sellers that most people are just overlooking because they're trying to use search dates and things like that. And it works really, really, really well. So let's take a look here at what I've got. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys about this is because, I thought about this, and I thought, with the wholesaling group and everything that I've got going on in there, what's the best way to monetize in multiple markets, right? What's the best way to monetize in multiple markets with the least amount of work, with the least amount of trying to bog myself down with a bunch of details, right? So I thought, hey, I could take this list and I could just market for some other people, or I could just take my whole system and move it into another market, and I could do this several times over. But I mean, I'm busy with my market that I've got going on right now. I've got, you saw all those new construction properties and several wholesale deals and hotel deals and things like that going on. Frankly, I'm not looking to add a whole bunch of more things to my plate. And I was thinking, what's the best way I can help people out in my group and also on my email list? And this is what I've come up with here, okay? So check this out, guys. All right, share my screen. All right. Can you guys, Bill, is this clear?
I can see it fine.
Okay. All right. So this is how the program works. I'm going to be offering something called the 6 Weeks Accountability and Accelerator Program. And this is the best way I know how to help you guys. Okay. Because, I could put out some kind of training course or something along those lines, but this is the type of thing where it includes direct interaction with myself and even Bill. I'm going to make Bill available to help you with your negotiation questions on your sellers, or helping you learn how to work with sellers and understand how they tick, so you can stop getting beat out by the competition on your deals and things like that, right? So through the program, it's going to include Voxer access to myself and Bill, okay? This is going to be a program that's based on strategy calls, or calls that we're going to have over a 6-week program. And before we get on each call, you're going to be responsible for reporting on your numbers. Okay, so if part week 1, we're going to be going over getting your marketing out and things like that. We're going to talk about how much marketing you sent out. So you're going to have to report and say, I sent out this amount of cards, or I didn't send out this amount of cards, right? So this is a program that's going to hold your feet to the fire and make you do things. Very important. Sometimes people, why do people get a personal trainer, right? Because they're not disciplined enough to do the workout on their own. So this is kind of be your personal trainer with regards to getting your real estate business going. So it's preferred in this program that you have a minimum of $500 a month for marketing, and preferred that you have $1,000 to $1,200. Reason being is because $500 is doable, because I can show you how to scale from targeting the most likely to sell to the least likely to sell, and we can break your list up in that fashion so that you can just target the best leads and then let the business fund itself, okay? All right, so we're gonna structure this over a couple weeks or 6 weeks, and the first week to start is very, very important, okay? Because we're gonna define that perfect property avatar for your market, and then we're gonna determine and implement your marketing plan. It's very important to have a marketing plan and getting going with it. So you have to define what your budget's gonna be, how much do you wanna put out there, and how much do you wanna commit to. We're going to talk about pulling that hidden master list. And in fact, I can pull that for you and give that to you and segment it. And we're going to sort it for the right sellers, right? The ones that exactly the ones I was talking about, and getting that marketing out of the door. That is important. Moving quick, speed of implementation, right? Week 2, we're going to have lead processing and follow-up, okay? Because if you are starting to get calls, if you do this right, we're going to then be in a spot where you're going to need help processing those leads and following up with people. And you're going to be getting deals that you need to start analyzing, and also getting to the point of getting the appointment and working yourself on that appointment, right? So there's an art to getting that appointment and talking to sellers beforehand. That's something Bill and I are training a new lead manager right now, and going through those exact steps of not wasting your time with the ones that we can do nothing with, but honing in on the ones that are going to make us the most money. So that's really, really important. Week 3, we're going to talk about working with the sellers to get the best possible price. Some of those negotiation tactics that we talked about, right, that I had with Bill is we're going to talk about that here. Because that is the key, right? Getting the best possible price so that we can make the most on every deal that we get. We're going to talk about working that simple seller sequence and advanced negotiation objection handling techniques, and getting the contract, right? Getting the close, whether it's the dinner close that we use, right? Or if it's something else. There's a lot of different closes that you can use with people, but it's all about learning how to read people and get to the point where the close is something that is simple. Very, very important, okay? Week 4, we're gonna identify the best potential buyers for your deals, and then working with those buyers to get the best price on your deal. Week 5, We'll talk about funding strategies to cash out your deal. So whether that's a contract assignment or a double close, we're going to talk about getting that deal to the closing table and getting through that process. There's a lot of little things that can go wrong when it comes to getting your deal or getting to the closing table and getting paid. And that's why we're here to help you through that process. All right, week 6, we're going to have some more accountability and a Q&A for further support. Remember, all throughout this process as well, you're going to have access to us on Voxer. So if you're in a spot, it's like having a coach in your pocket, right? So if you're in a spot where you're like, hey, Bill, what should I say to the seller? Or hey, Alex, what should I do in this situation with this person? You have that capability. You know, sometimes you can feel lost out there and not know what to do, and you feel stuck. And if you feel stuck, what? You do nothing. So this is hopefully going to get you over that hump. So let me explain to you first what Voxer is, okay? Voxer is an app on your phone that you can use, and it will give you the ability to walkie-talkie me or Bill, and at the push of a button, you will have access to where you can ask your question, and then we can respond as we are able. Most of the time we can respond right away, or obviously if we're with a seller or something along those lines, we won't be able to, but it's the ability to reach out for help right away, which is awesome, okay? So the format of these calls, okay? So these calls will be an open mic format, okay? So that means the intent is not to just load you down with a bunch of information and then say, go do it. Right? So it's not going to be, okay, this is what we're going to go over today, and we're going to go over all these different techniques and things like that, and then with the hope that you're going to go out and do it. The calls are going to be going over the assigned content that I just talked about, but the main intention is asking you, as you guys asking questions, and then us holding you accountable to that assigned action step. So we want you to ask questions, and we want to help you through your deals, right? So there's no stupid question. There's no question that shouldn't be asked. We want you to ask questions because this is where we can help you. So there are a lot of things that can happen with deals, like I said, and it can kill your deal. So we're here to help you get through that. And there are a lot of things through, getting your marketing out there and lead processing and things like that. We're here to help you with that because roadblocks are terrible, and we can help you get past those roadblocks with the support that we've got going on. And again, why am I doing this, right? Why am I offering this as an option? Well, I've got the ability of taking my proprietary list and postcard and marketing system and just setting shop in any market across the country. In fact, I've done that in the past where I've gone into multiple markets and I've worked with some individuals and have made a lot of money in the process. I've got a guy up north from me in my market. We've made over $500,000 through the years working in his market. And since now he's gone off on his own, and he continues to be very, very successful. So this is what I've done. I've decided to work with a select few students here to make money in other markets. And since I have my own real estate business, I'm not looking for hundreds of coaching students across the country. I'm not trying to be the next big coach or anything like that. I just figure this could be a great win-win for the knowledge that I have and that Bill has, and what you guys are looking to do, okay? So this is the best way for me to implement my system while also helping you guys out without having to sell some other real estate course or seminar or anything like that. So our goal is to get you doing deals so that we will be doing deal splits with you. There is also a reasonable deposit required so that we know you're 100% committed to the program, but you'll have the ability to get your deposit back through those deals that you do in the deal splits. And our goal is to do deals with you throughout the process, but eventually if you decide to go out on your own, that's fine too. So what happens in this situation if you are a beginner? You've never done any deals, right? Well, it's perfect for you because we're going on A to Z on the marketing and to find find deals all the way to getting to the closing table. And plus, you'll have the advanced support from nearly 50 years of real estate experience combined between Bill and myself, and real estate experience to draw upon. It's all there at your disposal if you choose to do that. So what if you're already doing deals? Well, that's great too, because the proprietary list that I get, you will not have a lot of competition when it comes to the marketing on it. And I found that our best deals have come from this list, and within the advanced negotiation and closing strategies, we're really going to take it to the next level when it comes to getting the contract and beating out the competition, which is truly key, right? Because if you were in the market with Bill, he's going to come behind you and beat you out. So he can teach you exactly how to do that. And an unannounced bonus here, okay? I talked about transactional funding and being in a pinch where you may not have the funds to do this. As long as your deal fits the criteria and you have your A to B contract and your B to C lined up, meaning contract with your seller and then a contract with your buyer lined up, I've got the capacity to get that funded for you. So there's a lot of value here. You've got the Youngblood Accelerator training program, along with the Voxer access, deal analysis, motivated seller coaching along the way. And we're also going to do a private Facebook challenge group to help keep everybody accountable, okay? So this is a group that's separate from any real estate Facebook group that I have, and it will also give you access to answer your or ask your questions in there, and we can respond with video or text or just responding to your post so everybody can see it and everybody can learn from it, okay? So this is going to be a small group. This is not a big group that I am looking for, just because of the fact of the intensity of it. And the disclaimer here is that, while I cannot guarantee your results, I can give you the best possible info and hold you accountable to results. You're going to be required to take massive imperfect action, and you'll also be able to take advantage of all the years of real estate experience that Bill and myself I have combined. Okay. Now, because this is such an opportunity where we're looking for just a few people here, this is an application process. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to flipwithalex.com. That's flipwithalex.com. You're going to fill out the application there, and we're going to go through those applications, and we are going to see who is going to be the best fit for this program. Okay, so that's flipwithalex.com. We can't work with everybody, obviously. We are looking for people in a different market. You can't be in my local market, so if you're on here and you're in the Hampton Roads area or Richmond, I'm sorry. Well, maybe Richmond, we could work with you, but not Hampton Roads. I can't give out, I can't market directly against you. So flipwithalex.com, and we're not going to be working in multiple markets with, or multiple people in the same market, because that would defeat the purpose. So flipwithalex.com is where you apply. Like I said, there is a deposit required to get involved. It's not a super, or it's not a cheap deposit, but the idea is that you will get your money back through the deals that you're doing. So we have a vested interest in your success. Okay, let me go back here. I'm going to put this in here. All right, guys. All right. Okay. And we are going to go here. HTTP with Alex.com. And y'all should, we want to text in the button, apply here. Okay, so y'all should see that button, apply here, make it nice and easy for you to go and apply to the program. Let's see here. I'm gonna unmute the chat so you guys. I currently believe all markets are saturated. These guys showed you how to separate yourself. Boom. Thanks, Max. I appreciate it. What level of experience would you recommend? Okay, so I gave that info there in the in that little document there. So we can work with people that are in the beginning stages to advanced as well, because we're going to be showing you exactly what to do. You just have to realize there is an investment to get started, and obviously in the marketing from 500 a month to 1,200 a month is important. All right, let's see here. Am I working with anyone in Phoenix besides Sean? I do not work with real estate wise, like doing deals on a monthly basis with Sean Terry. I have, through my connections, funded a multi-million-dollar apartment building deal for him. That was pretty cool. But on the ongoing basis, no, I'm not working with anybody in Phoenix right now. Let's see. In Orlando, a wholesaler on every corner, but I'm not afraid. That's good, because this scoots under the radar of all that kind of thing. Salt Lake and Utah County, Cody Hoffman and Inter are stiff competition. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. But again, like I said, you can kind of scoot under that with this kind of marketing and things like that. This will work in a market with lots of competition. Bill, would you say we're in a market that has a lot of competition?
It's ultra competitive.
Ultra competitive. That's why you need to hone in on your skills, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to hone in on those skills, because those skills are super, super duper important. When it comes to getting the contract. So wouldn't you think that having somebody like Bill to be able to ping upon when you're in a situation with a seller and you're not knowing what to say or how to handle it, that would be ultra helpful for you?
I wish I had me 10 years ago.
I wish I
knew what I knew now 10 years ago, but I didn't. In fact, I thought I knew more than I did. And it's like when Chris Chico was at your house the other day, we were talking about this. I had unconscious incompetence. I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Right.
Because
I don't know what I don't know, right?
I didn't know what I didn't know back then at all. I just didn't understand what I know now. And if I had known what I know now 10 years ago, I'd have made millions of dollars between that run up from 04 to 07.
Right. So Malik, not going to show us how to pull that list. Okay. One thing I'm going to tell you right now, okay, is kind of a portion of it, but without going through and doing the whole screen share on it. If you know how to work with list source, okay, this is not all of it, but it's part of it. You can go in, and one thing that you're overlooking is the unknown stuff, okay? So unknown equity is one of them, and also an unknown length of residence, okay? So that's a little bit of it, but not all of it, but enough to where you have some content from here for what you were looking for. And from what I know, I think I've seen you in the Facebook group, you seem to know what you're doing when it comes to pulling lists and stuff. But like I said, with this, we're going to pull that list for you, so that way you don't have to worry about trying to go in and figure that all yourself. Luis says, is this just for beginners? No, this is for advanced people as well that want a different way of being able to market with less competition, and also learn how to work and talk with sellers using some advanced negotiation strategies and things like that. I'll tell you, just being able to talk to Bill and ask him questions and learning how to work with people, he is going to, that alone is worth it. Dane, is this the secret list you talked about in Utah? So yes and no, because part of that is wrapped in that, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. So you prefer partners to not be working virtually. So we want to work with people that are not in the local market. We want to work with virtual people, right? We don't want people that are in the area that are going to, people that are going to do exactly what we're doing in our own market. Luis, I'm about to spend 10K in direct mail and PPC. Wow. So you're powering up. And if you're doing direct mail, Luis, and spending that kind of capacity, you would definitely benefit from this program here. How many wholesale deals are you closing a month? The number when you talk about a number of how many wholesale deals are you closing, that's something where people are like, well, I'm closing 20 deals or whatever. I'd say we do between 5 to 7, but our numbers are bigger. So if we close if we're averaging about 15,000, that number there is about where we're at. Pick a particular time frame when following up with a lead. Bill, what's a particular time frame when following up with a lead?
If I wish I could get them live, but I mean, as soon as they call in, like within 1 minute, I mean, call them up.
Boom, right away.
Immediately.
Right? Yep. Yeah, you got to follow up people immediately.
If I can teleport to an appointment, I would. If I can follow up in 1 minute.
Beat me up.
Hey, that one that we're getting over in Hampton the next week when we close on it, I was literally on the interstate and got a call 3 exits away from the exit to get off. And guess what? I said, I could be there in 15 minutes. She goes, wow. Really? I said, yeah, actually, I'm at this exit and I can get off. And I said, when I get off, where do I turn? She gave me the street. I got off, turned a couple blocks over, and went to her house and talked to her that afternoon.
Right. Absolutely. And you have to be on it, because if you're not, somebody else will be.
That's it.
Wendy said, I understand you don't want people in your market. I work markets virtual to me. Yep. That's good. I mean, you can work this virtually in other markets for sure. Following up meeting after speaking with them the first time and they don't agree to your offer, how long do you give them and then follow up to see if they're willing to accept your offer again? So somebody meets with us, we don't close them, they don't accept our offer. How long do we give them to follow up? How long do we give them and then follow up again? What would you say?
I follow up that same night.
You follow up that same night, but I think it goes a little deeper than that, right?
Yeah, we got a deal the other week, the one we're closing up in Windsor Oaks. I mean, we made an offer. Somebody came over top of us with $3,000. We came over top of them at $2,000. Guess what? I went out there that night and got that contract. That's it.
That's right.
I follow up that same night and then keep following up.
Right. That's right.
But you shouldn't really be making offers and leaving without getting it. But sometimes, like the one that called us back yesterday, he called us back and he went dark on me. I made him an offer. He had 3 sisters and brothers or whatever. He had to run it past. They're located in 3 different areas. He went totally dark on me for 3 days. He left me a voicemail and said they wanted to accept it. But then I sent him the contract, went dark on me again. I don't even know what the heck's going on with that. But guess what? I'll be calling him tomorrow. I'll call him the next day. I'll text him, email him, whatever it takes.
Right. Absolutely. So here's the thing, right? And I'm not going to give away your super special secret over this call, right? Because that wouldn't be fair. But we have a way that it's counterintuitive, right? Of making sure people call you back after they've been through the ringer on the competition, don't we?
That's it, man.
That's it.
It's the trump card.
That's it. Bam! And you know what? I'm not going to take credit for it, right? Because Bill is the one that came up with it. Bill came up with this way to call people back, or to get people to call you back without you even have to really be on them all the time. Because if you know they're going to shop, this is what you pull on them, and they'll magically they'll call you back.
Yep.
What would it just cost for negotiation training? Well, this is an overall program, so it's not really a piecemeal kind of thing, but I mean, if you want to apply and make that note in your application, that's fine. Anybody have any other questions? You can go to flipwithalex.com or just click on that offer button that I put out there. I don't know if you can still see it. You guys, is there like an offer button on the top under the webinar thing? Like, do you see where it says apply here? Do you see that? Or did that show up in the chat? Let's see. Not a real estate book.
Yeah, he asked me earlier what book would I recommend or something like for his son. Real estate. It's not a real estate book, but
oh, okay.
I think Think and Grow Rich is a classic.
It is.
Yeah.
List source is the main source, yes. But if you don't know how to use list source the right way, or I shouldn't say that. Let me tell you this, okay? Chris Chico was just here with me for the last week with his family, which is pretty awesome. I learned a lot from him, right? So the key with that is that he was even amazed at my ability to manipulate the data to get the most, the sellers that were most likely to sell, okay? Him and I go back a long ways. And even with his, some of the newer stuff that he had come out with was based on what I told him about the sellers that are most likely to sell. And then I've gone through and taken it a step further and sorted it down even more. So you kind of have to understand exactly what you're doing in list source. And like I said, with this, you won't have to, because I'm going to we'll pull that list for you. Thank you for answering my questions. Last question before I check on the babies. I understand that. I got 4 myself. 8, oldest is 8. Youngest is 3. What would you say is the best motivational lead to direct mail to? Absentee owner, tax default, inheritance, bankruptcy, notice of default. Okay, that is what I was talking about. So not focusing on whether it's an absentee owner, a free and clear, tax default, inheritance, any of that. It's this, well, I guess inheritance is kind of along those lines of the best kind of person to mail to. But like I said, most inheritance lists, you're not going to get the most up-to-date kind of information. It's just not there. But like I said, that list targets the best of all of that. Let's see. Any other questions? Concerns? Any other questions, concerns about what we're talking about? Okay. Absentee owners for direct mail, pre-foreclosure, what would you suggest? I'm about to pull the trigger on direct mail. Lewis, what I would say is before you drop the mail, you need to check this out, okay? It's not, like I said, it's just not about absentees. It's not about free and clear. There's a little bit more there. There's a little more to it than that. Pull the trigger on direct mail. Yes, you need to check this out. Okay, Cody, what about U.S. lead list? I've worked with them in the past, but this is not U.S. lead list. Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate it. Thank you for being on the call. I appreciate the kind words. Let's see here. So remember, flipwithalex.com. Or go to that application button there, Alex, or what market am I in? I am in the Hampton Roads market, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk.
Phoenix.
Oh, he's in Phoenix. That's a tough one, but still doable for sure. I talked to Sean Terry the other day about how he's marketing and stuff like that. And he's kind of using the equity approach. So that by nature as well kind of eliminates some of this stuff. Is Bill and WHFT? They want to get a piece of Bill. I'm trying to get you.
I don't have time to Facebook during the day. I'm actually out doing deals, man. Serious.
That's right. But
I didn't even have a Facebook app, right?
That's right. But I'll tell you what, though. In this program here, we're going to have a Facebook group, private group set up to where we can address your concerns in Facebook without all the noise. You know, Wholesaling Houses Full Time is a great group, right?
Oh, yeah. But I'll look at it.
but the noise can be a little distracting. So a focused place where you guys can get your questions answered and responded to is key. Is this just one list you're providing? It's one list with different buckets to it. Okay, so I go through a list as a whole, and then I break it down into different segments regarding this. So like data for or a bucket for sales or for records that don't have any sales date that are attached to it. Records, a bucket for records that have some recent transfer activity on it, things like that. So there's a special way of going in there and tweaking the data to get it to do that. Also, for getting the list, you can have access to my low price of pulling records, which is helpful. Okay, all right, guys. Do you have any more questions regarding this? It is the 6-week implementation program. It's something that is not. It's not just a program, you know, where you're just going to look at it in a mentorship or in a membership site. This is more of an implementation program of getting you to take action, and then us being there along the way as you're navigating through it. So we've got a bunch of applications to go through here. We're going to go through them, and first come, first served as far as the different markets. Or I guess I shouldn't say that. It's if you're in a market with somebody else, we're going to look at the different potentials and see what your goals are and what you're looking to do, and see how we can make this thing go. So I appreciate you guys for being on the call. Thanks, Max. Appreciate it. Thanks, Bill. I'll see you later. It's flipwithalex.com. And I appreciate you, Bill, for taking the time to be on the call.
No problem. Thanks, Alex. Take care.